Wavell up onto the podium.
Hi everyone, a little bit nervous being up here in front of everyone now. I do want to say firstly just, wow, this has been amazing just to be a part of. Seeing so many people gathered together like this is incredibly, incredibly powerful. You have absolutely no idea. And I do want to say a very quick thank you to everyone at Kedron Wavell for making today possible. You know, I've been emailing with Melissa and Lucas, but today wouldn't be possible without my heartfelt thanks for everyone here, all the tech team, and of course all of you guys for being here too. Today would not be possible if you guys weren't here, so thank you as well for being here. And this here is exactly what I believe tribe and belonging is all about. So International Women's Day, it's a shared identity, it's a shared mission, it's a shared meaning, and right now it's all together in this one room. And how absolutely amazing is that? All of us, so beautifully unique people, are able to come together and connect under this banner, which is something that is just phenomenal, if you ask me. And for me personally, belonging has, or the idea of belonging has been something that has always been a recurring theme throughout my life. So for many years, one of my biggest struggles was with feeling that I didn't fully belong anywhere. And I'm sure so many of you resonate with that too. It is such a universal theme. And although generally today I am doing a lot better with that, it fluctuates. And that's so normal. It's so normal for that to fluctuate. It's an ongoing and it's a forever evolving process, which is also what I've observed clinically as well. And in many ways, that understanding has shaped the work that I do today. So through my seminars, my talks, workshops, one-on-ones, and conversations just like this, I try to facilitate and create spaces and bring people together under the banner of healing, of reconnecting with self, of moving through things that have just been stuck for way too long, and move into a life that feels more authentic, that feels more fulfilling and successful in all aspects possible. Because I truly do believe that every single one of us has the innate ability to heal and to grow and to step into a life that maybe didn't feel possible prior. And that's one of the many reasons why I do run free community mental health workshops every single month, actually just next door in the library. So if you're ever in the area and you want to drop by, you're always welcome to. Because sometimes I feel that we just need that space to let that process start and to let it unfold, which is what I aim to facilitate in my practice as a registered counsellor, and what today is doing so beautifully too. So I hope that you guys walk away not just with insights from us panelists, but even from your conversations that you've had this morning, and maybe even walking away with some beautiful new connections as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I'll just start off. How has understanding your tribe changed as you've grown personally and professionally as well?
Alright, well, as I said, belonging has been something that I've always struggled with, and that sort of feeling that I wouldn't be accepted if I showed up as who I really was, which I feel is a very universal thing, and it definitely is more prevalent when you're younger, and it gets a little bit better as you get older, but it's still definitely there. And the thing is that this is, as I said, it's a very universal feeling, so everyone feels that way. And the way that I have found to deal with this or to approach it is that true belonging requires authenticity. So it requires you to actually show up as who you truly are, which again is very hard. But if you feel that you have to change yourself just to fit in, that is not true belonging. I think we can all resonate with the feeling that belonging and fitting in, they don't feel the same. They're not the same experientially for you. So seeking acceptance through performance, that is fitting in, and I don't think that that's something that we really should be trying to aim for. And the great thing about being authentic is, it's absolutely terrifying to do in the beginning, I know that one, but it becomes a self-sustaining loop. So once you are authentic and you show up authentically, it creates a deeper sense of belonging with the people that you are with. And that deeper sense of belonging calms your nervous system, and your nervous system then feels more safe. And when your nervous system feels more safe, you want to show up more as who you are. So you feel like you can actually be more authentic. So you can see that it is a self-sustaining loop and it's positive. And so one of the things that I like to do in my practice is to teach people how to do that.
And how do you build that space for others to feel safe to show up fully as themselves?
So, as I said, everyone struggles with belonging. It is a universal thing. And one thing that I think is very important to understand is that it is completely okay to be self-oriented. There's absolutely nothing with that. And I use that wording specifically because I think self-orientation is different from being selfish or being self-centered, which definitely has some very negative connotations that we've all grown up with. Don't be selfish, don't be self-centered. But I think self-oriented, to me, what that entails is encompassing wanting to feel loved, wanting to feel deeply understood for who you are and feel deeply valued for who you are and cared for. And all of those things are perfectly okay to want and desire, and I think that's what encompasses self-orientation. So because I say that we're all like this, so how can we facilitate and make others feel safe? That's something that we've got to realize, is that everyone wants to feel that way. So that means you, everyone wants to feel that way. So how can you, when you're thinking about this, let someone else feel loved? Feel that you deeply understand them, feel that you value them, and feel deeply cared for. That makes people feel safe, and that makes people feel that they can open up as who they truly are.
And what helps you stay grounded when things feel uncertain or overwhelming?
There's definitely many things that I could talk to about this. I'm sure we've heard a lot of them. They're very prevalent on social media right now and everywhere. So we can say a lot of different things, meditation, exercise, breath work, being out in nature. You were talking about being in the ocean. There's all of these things, and it's whatever usually works for you. For me personally, there's two that are probably a little bit more common. There's one that I think is not as common, and that's because it's a little bit hard. So for me, first thing I would usually try is exercise. I always love exercise. That's something that's always really worked for me. Lifting heavy weights, I go out of my head, go out of all this crap that's going on here if I'm feeling overwhelmed, and I go into my body. So that really helps me just process that. Another thing is nature. So going out into nature, and that's not just going for a walk, but I try to engage all of my senses. So I try to use sight and look at small little details in nature, try to listen and use my hearing, try to notice all the sensations, like try to touch things and notice all of those things. Notice the smell. Maybe don't use your taste. You don't want to try something and get poisoned out in nature, okay? I'm not condoning that. But, just try to engage your senses when you're out there. That for me, I feel is also very useful. And now the third one, which I think is not talked about as much, I don't think it's that common, but also I think it's very, very difficult to do. And that is sitting with discomfort. Because we, especially like nowadays, there's so many things to distract ourselves with. And emotional processes, I feel that we actually do need to let them unfold naturally. But oftentimes, because they're uncomfortable, we don't let them and we just distract ourselves. We're like, oh, let's quickly just go and meet our girlfriends. Let's quickly just turn on the TV. Let's read a book. Let's do something else. I can't deal with this feeling that I'm feeling right now. And I think that actually stops the process of being able to unfold, and then it just gets stuck within our bodies, and it can show up as dis-ease, it can show up as frustrations, and we can take it out on the people that we love without realizing. So when I think of uncertainty and overwhelm, I think of these things as thought processes and emotions. And thought processes usually come from emotions that we're feeling. So we have the feeling and then we think the things around it, and we think our ways through it. But what comes before emotion? I thought about this a lot, and I think that before emotion comes a physical sensation within our bodies. So we feel something within our bodies that incites an emotion, that we link to an emotion. But we don't often notice that physical sensation. But I think that's where it starts. So what I mean by sitting with that discomfort is sitting with that physical sensation and just noticing it and letting that process unfold. For me, that usually takes around about 10 minutes, and I can be absolutely in tears by the end of it. I could have let out all of my anger and screamed. I could have been vigorously shaking, but once that's done, I feel so just, wow, all of that's just gone. The body was able to release it and it's not stuck and trapped. So I think that's one thing that helps me stay grounded, which is very useful, but it's tough. That last one's tough, if you're not ready for it, I wouldn't recommend it, but it is very useful.
Thank you. And so as a counsellor and a deeply caring person, how do you protect your own energy while you're dealing with a lot of heavy conversations and emotions?
It's a bit of a difficult question to answer because I think everyone has, I want to speak to everyone because I think everyone has different capabilities and different limitations when it comes to being able to care deeply for somebody but also protect their own energy. And that can even change day by day. If you've had a very overwhelming day, I'm sure some of you realize that you really don't have much care for people at all. You just want to be locked away and you sometimes snap when you don't need to snap. So, but the thing that I think we have to get to is we have to avoid resentment. And that's the point where it gets too much and you care too deeply and you're not protecting yourself. So, how to avoid resentment, getting to that point, everyone will have their own personal warning signs before it gets to that point. So it's a little bit hard for me to say what those are. You probably are somewhat aware of what some of them are, so it's about noticing them first. And I want to speak to, of course, how women tend to operate with this, because I feel like women, not only are we more caring, but also it seems very fitting for today. Not sure why, but I think speaking to women today seems very fitting, so I'm just going to speak to women. So women tend to absorb emotions quite a fair bit. We want to instead learn how to witness them, which is something that you were talking about too, taking on the emotions of other people. What we want to try to aim for is being present with emotions, being present with your own emotions and being present with another person's emotions without trying to fix or rescue, which is something that women really love to do. And it's innate in our nature. But when it takes away from ourselves, it's not okay and it's not good for us. So it's about making that distinction between being supportive and showing support versus being responsible for others. That's where the distinction needs to be.
Great, thank you. And one small practice that helps you strengthen connection in everyday life.
So one very small practice, and in everyday life is a good way to phrase this, because we all do this in everyday life, and everyone does it. And they are called bids for connection. So what is a bid for connection? A bid for connection is usually small little things that we do or say that is asking for attention or appreciation from another. So often that can be, someone saying like, oh my God, look at the sunset outside, it's really beautiful. Or, I got the job recently. Or even just walking into a room and just audibly sighing, all of these things. Or even just like, oh, did you see the lunar eclipse on Tuesday? How wonderful was that, Or just, as well, it could be negative as well. It's like, I feel really overwhelmed. The presentation today really didn't go the way that I wanted it to at work. All of these things, it's reaching out for connection to another person, because otherwise why would we say them in the first place? So we're asking for either attention or appreciation with these things. And so it's about how we respond to them in our everyday life. Everyone is always making these bids for connection. And there has actually been a very fascinating study about couples. And so it was about these bids for connection. So it found that couples who stayed together long term, they responded with appreciation or attention to these bids of connection 86% of the time. And then couples who didn't or stay together only responded to these bids 33% of the time. So that's a massive, massive difference. Healthy relationships responded 86% of the time to these bids of connection given by their partner. And again, this is for every relationship, it's not just intimate or romantic relationships. So it is just about noticing them, because obviously they are important for the person who makes them, because when you don't respond and you just go, oh yeah, or you just do something else, versus going like, oh, that's really wonderful, or I'm really, really sorry to hear that. There's a massive difference how that's felt for the receiver. So I think that's one thing that you can notice every day and just try to approach them with appreciation and attention.
Thank you. And how would you repair any strained connections?
There's really no one-size-fits-all approach to repairing a strained relationship. It's all dependent on the personality of the people and of the dynamic of the relationship. However, I want to say when a relationship becomes strained, typically what's happening is that people are responding from a place of reactivity. So they're not quite in their constructive mindsets, they're just snapping, they're going at it, they're just attacking the other person, maybe not meaning to either, but it happens. But there is something that actually that lives in opposition to reactivity, and that is curiosity. Curiosity, I find, is probably one of the best things, the tools that you can use in order to repair a relationship if it's become strained. So what do I mean when I say curiosity then? Curiosity, and what you can say to a person if you want to stop that chain of reactivity is, look, I genuinely, right now, I want to understand your internal experience of what's going on. I want to know what's going on for you right now, so I can see what's happening from your side. And if you say that you genuinely wish to understand them, and you mean it, you have to actually mean it. You can't just say it just to say it and hopefully get the argument out of the way. You have to genuinely mean it to understand their internal experience. One, you'll probably find that the answer that they give is very different from what you were thinking, because everyone is so internally complex that it's probably layers upon layers of things that led to them feeling and doing that thing. So you might find that it's very different from what you were imagining anyway. And that genuine desire, and when you show and say that genuine desire, it's going to break down some of those walls that people have. So it's going to say, oh wow, okay, they actually genuinely want to understand me, and I feel valued and I feel seen because of that. So they will break down, or at least most of the time, that should lower a lot of those walls that people have up. And when that genuine desire is there to understand, that repair becomes a lot easier because trust enters the picture again, and it can be reestablished.
Angel, thank you so much for your insight, guidance, and expertise. Thank you very much.